So, if you've ever been into gaming, especially around the mid 2000s, early 2010s, you're probably familiar with console wars. Well, if you're now getting into music production, the same thing kind of exists. Now you're probably wondering, console wars, what are you talking about? Well, when it comes to music production, you got a couple of consoles, or what we call DAWs, which is Digital Audio Workstation, and you have a couple of different options for that. Now, a lot of people argue, oh, Ableton's the best, oh, FL Studio's the best, insert whatever one you want that is the best. And, as a beginner, this can be really confusing, especially because, you kind of have analysis paralysis and you have all these options and it's like, oh, whoa, what do I pick? Well, this is going to be really cliche, but pick the one that works best for you. Now, what does this actually mean? There are a couple of different sort of metrics you could use to be like, oh, this one's the best one for you. I'm going to keep it really simple here, though, and I have 4 metrics. So we got budget, we got system compatibility, and we got use case, and we got simplicity. So first up, we got budget. Obviously, you're going to spend some amount of money on whatever you're going to be using. Okay. I also forgot to mention we're going to be mainly going over 5 DAWs, but this applies to other DAWs as well, because there are other ones that obviously we can't cover because there's a lot of them. But we're going to be going over Ableton, which is what I use. We're going to be going FL Studio, which is what I started with, Reaper, Pro Tools, and Logic Pro. So starting off with budget as one of the parameters for you. So obviously, especially in the economy now, money's tight. You gotta get the best bang for your buck here. So a couple of the different options on this list will give you varying levels of what you're looking for. However, I will say this with the caveat of whatever you pick can pretty much do the same general things as the other ones. So whether it's recording audio, arranging stuff, modulation, compatibility with most VSTs, you're going to get it. So this is the reason I kind of say that it depends, and you have to kind of pick the one that's best for you, because at the end of the day, what you pick is going to be what you're using. Like, that's your tool, But anyways, I digress. Back to budget. So among the different options that I gave, so we got Ableton Live, FL Studio, Reaper, Pro Tools, and Logic Pro. All right. For budgetary reasons, we're going to start on the low end, so we're going to go with Reaper. So Reaper is very cheap. I believe it's like $60 and has a crazy free trial. And it's a one-time purchase with continuing releases and updates and whatnot. Then we also have FL Studio, which is also pretty affordable and has lifetime free upgrades, and it has tiers to it. Then we also have Logic Pro, which is a one-time purchase, and if I'm not mistaken, it also has free updates, but it does have one downside, which may not be a downside depending on your system, but we'll get to that one in the second category. Then we have Ableton. Ableton comes in intro, standard, and suite. Now, these obviously have drastically different prices. However, these also do have student pricing. So when I bought suite, I bought it as a student, so I got it cheap. But either way, there's at least different pricing for the tier that you need. If you only need the intro one, it's a set price. If you need standard, it's a set price. If you need suite, it does not come with lifetime updates, but whenever you do need to update, it is cheaper than actually buying the software itself. Very, very, it's a lot cheaper. Like, you're not having to you know, pay the same price. You're paying a substantially smaller amount. Then we have Pro Tools, which is subscription based. It does have a free intro version, I believe, but again, it's a subscription. I'm trying to go into this video as least biased as I possibly could be, but I cannot stand subscriptions. So, as a result, I have not used Pro Tools personally, but if you do want to use Pro Tools, because it is used very widely in the industry. So, just know it's a subscription, and I don't know, I just don't like subscriptions. Number 2, we got system compatibility. So, for this category, I took into account both compatibility with your operating system as well as system performance based on whatever computer you might have. Because let's face it, you're dealing with enough tracks, you might run into problems with your CPU or your RAM, etc. So first off, we're going to go with OS compatibility, which is your operating system. So the 3 major ones, obviously, Windows, Mac, Linux. Of all of these, the only one that works natively with Linux is Reaper. So, if you're on a Linux system, then you probably want to go with Reaper. Then we have the inverse. We have one that only works on one operating system, and that is Logic Pro. So that one only works on Mac. So obviously, if you have a Mac, that's not going to be a problem for you. But if you're a Windows user, unless you go out and get yourself a Mac, you're not going to be able to use Logic. Unless you, make like a Hackintosh, but that's a can of worms. So Ableton, FL Studio, and Pro Tools both work with Mac and Windows. So the difference is going to be that FL Studio tends to be a little easier on your CPU. Ableton's going to be a little more intense, not by a lot, but it is something to keep in mind. And Pro Tools can be heavy on your CPU. As for Reaper and Logic, Reaper being FOSS or free open source, I forget what the other S stands for. That one's going to be a little easier on your resources. And then Logic Pro, since it's only for Mac, it's going to be a lot more optimized for the system. So it's going to be a little better performance-wise. All right. And then third, we have use case. All right. So depending on what you're trying to get out of your system, that's going to be what you want to pick. So for example, Ableton Live is particularly good for electronic music. Big names use it. Like, Skrillex uses it. I'm not going to lie. When I first started producing music back in high school, I Googled what does Skrillex use, and it's Ableton, and that's why I started using Ableton after I've been using FL Studio for a while. I'm not even gonna deny it. But it is particularly good for electronic music and for live performance. Technically the software, it's not called Ableton, it's called Live. Ableton's just the company, but it's particularly good for live music. Then we have FL Studio. FL Studio, probably if you're leaning towards it, you've probably gotten the gist that it's the best for hip hop. Big names use it, especially like Metro Boomin. Tank God uses FL Studio. And it's also more loop based and pattern based. So versus Ableton's more kind of session based. And then we have Reaper, which is good. It's kind of just good in general, and it's very customizable, so you can kind of tailor it to what you want. It's probably not going to be as great as something that's particularly designed for a specific purpose, but you get that you get the ability to customize. All right, and then we have Pro Tools. If you're wanting to work in a professional setting, that's going to be what you want to use, because that is, for the most part, at least what a lot of pro engineers use. So again, this is why use case matters. And then we have Logic Pro, which is pretty versatile for pretty much everything. I do have a Mac. I just don't use Logic personally, but it's a very well-rounded software. So you really can't go wrong, especially with the price tag and knowing that it comes with updates for it. So yeah. Then number 4, we have simplicity. Now, I'm gauging simplicity both on the program itself and availability of tutorials. All right. So, Ableton, it's pretty easy if you're playing live, and there's a lot of tutorials on the internet for it. You especially have like big names that are using it that can show you stuff. So, there's like Moonboy that's using it. Ash uses it. They make tutorials for Ableton. And then FL Studio, plenty of tutorials online. And even though I initially didn't really like the interface, it is a very easy interface if that is what you end up picking and you kind of get rooted into it. Like I said before, Reaper's really customizable, but that does come with a sort of learning curve. And, there is a community for it. It's still growing, but, you kind of want to, you'll have to look for stuff versus if you pick Ableton or FL Studio. Then you have Pro Tools. Pro Tools is really good for editing. And, there's a lot of very high quality professional level tutorials for it. And then we also have Logic Pro, which is a very simple interface, and there's a lot of people that make tutorials for it, especially because it's kind of, it's pretty similar to GarageBand, which is another DAW, but that I did not bring up because Logic Pro is kind of like the, the standard versus GarageBand's like the, I don't want to say lesser because you can still make great stuff with it, but it's not as advanced as Logic Pro is. So, after talking about all of these things, kind of gauge which one of these 4 things you value the most. It's like, are you willing to spend the money? Are you willing to sacrifice some performance? Are you willing to, kind of give and take in what you're using it for? And do you mind learning some heavier stuff, or do you want to kind of keep it simple? So using these things, you want to base your decision off of that, because ultimately there is no best DAW. I don't want to be cliche saying it, but it's whatever inspires you to be creative, whatever gives you the accessibility, whether it's from the interface or from a price point or from the simplicity of it, to allow you and facilitate, good music production. So, yeah, I hope that's helpful. If any of you use any of these, let me know in the comments which one you use and why. If you use one that's not listed among these, let me know and tell other people why they should use it. I know there's Reason, which I have used before. There's Cubase, GarageBand, which is one I briefly touched on but didn't go into detail for. But, tell us what you guys think in the comments below. And if you haven't already, like this video and subscribe, because I will be making more videos just like this for beginner producers. And even if you're not a beginner producer, at least you can learn a little thing or two from people starting out. I know, I'm going to learn from the noobs. Yeah, these people that are coming in, they can offer a fresh perspective on a lot of things and kind of make you wonder, why is it that I use a certain software? So again, defend the one you're using in this console war of DAWs. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.